So now we know all about major and minor triads. We know that major triads are built out of a major third and a perfect fifth, and we know that minor triads are built out of a minor third and a perfect fifth. We also know that there are three notes in a triad. The bottom note is always referred to as the root, the middle note is referred to as the third, and the top note is referred to as the fifth. Now it's time to start looking at inverting triads. There are three different positions that triads can find themselves in. First one is called root position. Root position occurs when the root of the triad is in the base. The second one is called first inversion. And first inversion occurs when the third of the triad occurs in the base. And the last one is called second inversion, and second inversion occurs when the fifth of the triad is in the base. That's a lot of numbers. It will be easier if I play it on the piano. Let's look over here. Here's an F major triad. We learned last lesson that F is the root, A is the third, and C is the fifth. Now, based on what I just told you, this triad is in root position because the root is the lowest note on the piano right now. Now, to get this thing into first inversion, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this F and leapfrog it up here. And instead of playing this F, I'm going to play this F up here. But I'm going to keep these two notes the same. This is still an F major triad. As you can see, it has the same notes as an F major triad down here, except now the root is up high up here, and the third happens to be the lowest note on the piano. Because the third is the lowest note, we refer to this as a F major triad in first inversion. If I take this A and leapfrog it up here, I can get to the next inversion, all the way up here, and I'll leave these two notes the same. Now the fifth of the chord is the lowest note, and this is an F major triad in second inversion. So this is an F major triad in root position. The root is on the bottom. This is an F major triad in first inversion. The third is on the bottom, and this is an F major triad in second inversion. The fifth is on the bottom. Let's do a different one. Here's an A flat major triad. A flat is the root, C is the third, and E flat is the fifth. Root position, because the root is on the bottom. First inversion, because the third is on the bottom. And second inversion, because the fifth is on the bottom. Root position, then this leapfrogs up. First inversion, then this leapfrogs up. Second inversion. Then one more time and we would end up with root position again. Now, it's really important. Let's pause and take some time to talk about the difference between the words root and bass, because oftentimes people can get these two things confused. The word root, when talking about triads, refers to the fundamental note of the triad. And the fundamental note of the triad is the bottom note of a root position triad. So if you take a triad and you ensure that it is stacked in thirds, the bottom note is always referred to as the root. Now, in different inversions, the root is going to be in different places. Let's look at the word bass. Bass is a general term we use to refer to whatever note is the lowest note we're looking at. So in a root position triad, the bass is the lowest note. It happens to be the root. In a first inversion triad, the third is the bottom, but another word for the third can be just the bass because it's the lowest note. And in a second inversion triad, the fifth is the lowest note, but we can just simply refer to the fifth as the bass because it's the lowest note we're dealing with. So bass can take on different note names depending on which note is the lowest. Root is stuck with the note it started with in root position. Let's look closely at that on the piano. Here's an A major triad. It's in root position because the root is on the bottom. A is the root. Now if I put this triad in first inversion by leapfrogging this A up here, C sharp is called the third, and the root is now up here. You see, lots of my students get confused because they think the root is just the bottom note, but it's not. This is the third, this is the fifth, and the root was down here in root position, but now the root is up here in first inversion. So A is still the root. Do not call this the root just because it's on the bottom. We can call this the bass, or the third. And now now we're in first inversion. Let's leapfrog up to second inversion. Leapfrog that C sharp up. Now we're in second inversion. E is the lowest note. E is the fifth. The root is still A. You cannot call this note the root. It's not. A is the root. In an A major triad, A is always the root. 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 Let's talk about the bass. Here's the same triad. A general word for the lowest note in this is bass. A is the bass because it's on the bottom. It's also the root. First inversion, C sharp is the bass because it's on the bottom. It's also the third. Second inversion, E is the lowest note, E is the fifth. It's the bass because it's on the bottom. So the lowest note can always be referred to as the bass. However, the root stays the same. A is the root, A is the root, A is the root. And I hope that helps you understand triadic inversions. And in a second, I'm going to go over to the whiteboard and we can talk about how to do that on paper. Now, one more point before we do that. Sometimes, because we're flipping notes upside down and right side up and sideways, it's easy for these letters to get jumbled up in your brain and for you to panic on your exam. Now, remember, on a music theory exam, you are always allowed to write little notes on the side of your page away from the question you're working with. You won't lose marks if you doodle or have to write yourself reminders on the side of your page. And in situations like this, if you see a triad and it's in first inversion or second inversion and you can't find the root, it's okay to take a pencil and go to the side of your page and try to figure out what it would be in root position and write it in root position somewhere away from the question. Then you can look at it and ensure you know the quality and the root and what position it was in the question, and you can take that and then go answer the question. So don't feel ashamed if you're getting all jumbled up with all this terminology in your brain. It's okay if you have to take a scrap piece of paper and figure it out on the side and then go answer the question you've been asked on your exam. So let's go do that on the whiteboard and I will show you more closely what that looks like.